I never thought a cup of spilled coffee at a Denver street fair would change my life. And I definitely didn't think it would lead to a friendship, and then something much deeper, with a man who was convinced I could never care for him because of one number, his age. But looking back, maybe that was the very thing that made him so different from anyone I'd met before. It was a breezy Saturday morning in downtown Denver. I just bought a caramel latte from a little corner cart when someone, tall, wearing an old Rockies baseball cap, bumped into me. The coffee didn't just spill. It decorated my sweater like a modern art piece. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," he said, pulling napkins from nowhere, like some sort of penance magician. "It's fine," I laughed, though it stung my skin. "It's coffee. Coffee happens." He smiled a little awkwardly, and I noticed lines near his eyes. Not the stress kind. The kind you get from laughing over decades. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Let me buy you another one." We sat on a bench while he insisted on paying for a fresh latte. He told me he was a woodworker, had a small shop in the outskirts of the city. I told him I was a graphic designer freelancing from my apartment. Somewhere between talking about mountain hikes and the best burrito spots in Colorado, he hesitated. "You probably think I'm older," he said, glancing at the paper cup in his hands. I shrugged. "I think you're someone who knows where to find good burritos." He chuckled, but I caught it, that flicker in his eyes. Something deeper than just self-deprecating humor. Over the next few weeks, we accidentally kept running into each other. He'd show up at the same farmer's market, or I'd pass his workshop on my way to a client meeting and stop in. Daniel had this way of listening, really listening, like every word mattered. He'd ask follow-up questions most people skipped. He noticed when I'd had a bad day and knew not to push for answers. And yet, every so often, he'd make a joke about being the old guy here. Always light-hearted. Always brushed off. But I started wondering, was that really just a joke? One afternoon in his shop, I found him sanding the edge of a maple coffee table. "You ever sell these online?" I asked. He shook his head. "Nah. Not my thing. I like meeting the people who'll take them home. Guess I'm old-fashioned." He paused, then added, emphasis on old. I finally said it. "You keep saying that. How old are you?" He set down the sandpaper, took a breath. 49. It was quiet for a second. Not because I cared about the number, but because I could see he was bracing for something. Daniel leaned against the workbench, eyes lowered. "I've been through enough to know how this goes," he said. "Women your age, they don't want," he stopped himself. "They don't want what?" I asked. "They don't want to deal with someone who's got more past than future. Someone who remembers when phones had cords." He smiled faintly. "And I like talking about bands you've probably never heard of." I didn't answer right away. Instead, I ran my hand along the table's smooth edge. "You ever think maybe that's not a problem?" I asked quietly. But Daniel pulled back. Over the next week, he was distant. Short texts. No surprise visits at the farmer's market. It hurt, more than I expected. We weren't together, but I missed him in a way that felt heavier than just missing a friend. Finally, I marched into his shop one Friday. "Did I do something?" I asked. He sighed. "No. I'm trying to do the right thing here. You've got your whole life ahead of you. I don't want to be the reason you slow down." I don't know what possessed me, but I grabbed a pencil from his bench and started sketching on a scrap of paper. When I slid it across to him, it was a little doodle, a mountain path winding upward, with two figures walking side by side. "See that?" I said. "That's you and me. Doesn't matter where on the path we started. What matters is we're walking it together." Daniel stared at it for a long time. And for the first time since I'd met him, he didn't joke about his age. From then on, something shifted. He still teased about being ancient when his knees cracked, but it was lighter, like he wasn't hiding behind it anymore. We kept meeting, kept talking. I learned about his years traveling as a carpenter's apprentice, the small business he built with his own hands, the people he'd helped along the way. And I realized, this wasn't someone who was too old. This was someone who knew who he was. Someone who made life steadier without making it boring. Months later, we found ourselves at another Denver street fair. Same coffee cart, same breeze. "You know," I said, "this is where you almost ruined my sweater." He laughed. And here I thought I saved it from a life without proper caffeine. We stood there a moment, coffee in hand. Then he said, I was wrong about you. How so? I thought you wouldn't want me because of my age. But you saw past that before I did. I smiled. Guess that means you owe me for proving you wrong. Oh yeah. What's the bill? Just keep walking this path with me. Daniel raised his cup. Deal. And that's the thing about numbers. They only define you if you let them.